and you're on.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome. It's rodeo and chuckwagon time again, and in particular news this week from the Canadian Pro Chuckwagon Association. They got together over the weekend and had some fun. It was just an exhibition, and not all the members of the CPRA were there, but nonetheless, they got together and had some fun over in Saskatchewan at Meadow Lake. Then Pro Rodeo out of Airdrie, Alberta, made a big announcement this week. The Canadian Finals Rodeo, which for many years was held in Edmonton and then moved a couple of years ago to Red Deer, and the Westerner in Red Deer was the host for the last 2 years. They have sat and looked at all of the possibilities, and without any rodeos to qualify, the Cowboys just felt it was not a good year to go ahead. So the Canadian Finals Rodeo, which would have been held in Red Deer, Alberta, and that would have been November the 3rd through the 8th this year, has been postponed. They are not saying it's canceled. They'll still have the 47th edition of the CFR, and that championship final now will be moved back to 2021. So no Canadian Finals Rodeo in Red Deer this fall. So far, we've not heard what the Americans are doing. I think they've had some no fans in the stands rodeos, and they're trying to get Cowboys qualified. They are currently issuing a standings list all of the time, and that means that their eye is still on having the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo in December in Las Vegas. Well, we've been, 4 weeks now that the World Pro Chuckwagon Association would have been taking place had we have gotten started the last week in May. 1 year ago, when we did run the opening meets, you would have had in Grande Prairie, the champion coming away from there, Luc Tournier from Duck Lake, Saskatchewan. Then they moved on to Saskatoon and Prairieland Park, and coming out of that last year was Chance Vegan of Grande Prairie as the champion. Then Kurt Bensmiller, the 4 times champ of the world, won his first meet last year when they ran in Medicine Hat. That's a shorter track, so a dozen heats in that each and every night. And over the half-mile track, Kurt Bensmiller winning his first championship title for the 2019 season. Last week, it would have been the Guy Wiedek, and I think if you follow chuckwagon racing and rodeo, you'll know the name Guy Wiedek. Yes, he is the guy that gets credit for starting the Calgary Stampede way back in 1912. Didn't have chuckwagon racing that very first year. As a matter of fact, it was not until 1923 that chuckwagon racing actually got started at the Calgary Stampede. But Guy Wiedek, who was a vaudeville performer and entertainer, came to Calgary with the idea that he could do something Western style, and thus we have the Calgary Stampede. But for the first time in its history, there will be no Calgary Stampede this year, which would have started on July the 3rd. However, we just would have completed in High River, Alberta. That's a smaller community of about 30,000 people just south of Calgary. High River, which became the final resting spot for the great Guy Wiedek. And so the Chuckwagon Championships are called the Guy Wiedek Memorial Chuckwagon Championships. And last year was Doug Irvine of Bonnyville, Alberta, winning it all. Well, there are all kinds of other people, not always in the spotlight, but chuckwagon racing is one of those sports where it takes outriders, it takes barn help, it takes families to put it all together. And after the races one evening while we were in Grande Prairie last year, we went down to the barns to visit with the Darcy Flad family. Joining me is Darcy Flad, chuckwagon driver for a number of years, and a long line of Flads goes back 4 decades. But at the present time, we've got some newcomers. Your son for the first year driving this year. Darcy, that's going to make you so proud.
Yeah, it does. He's started, ever since he could, I let him around here. So, it wasn't something that he's introduced to over day. I mean, he was always with me. I remember when Dad was still alive, he would crawl in the wagon, and Rochelle wasn't fond of that. And Grandpa would say, just wait, run across the road there and get in the wagon when Mom's not here. So it's progressed for such a long time, eh?
And quite a family that's been involved. Your brother, of course, also driving, and the long line, Grandpa Herman,
who tragically lost his life on the way to another Chuckwagon race up here in the Peace Country a number of years ago. So that history you guys are just kind of building on.
I guess if that's what you call it. I mean, Dad started in 1972. I was 2 years old, and then just progressed like that, and I started to drive, and I always loved the cowboy role, so I tried to ride broncs a little bit and rope some calves, and I worked in a government pasture, so I've always been a cowboy. And then, I raised my family. Cheyenne Jill, she's not here today. She's a trick rider. And Layne now starting to drive a wagon. And my wife, Rochelle, she come from her dad drove a wagon. So the breeding's there. There's no two ways about it, eh? The blood, eh?
And the connection to the infield, you talked about being a rodeo cowboy. One of your sponsors is from an infield sport, PBR.
Yeah, naturally. I mean, without them guys, we just couldn't get down the road. It's the beautiful logo. They sponsor me. They got the box sponsor for the whole 53 days of racing. And my shirt sleeves, I usually have PBR attire on all the time. And it's unbelievable what those guys do for me, eh? So.
You talked about the importance of the entire family. Yes, we're watching Layne, but your wife, Rochelle, I'm going to invite her to come and join us for a few moments. What role, what kind of job that you have to fit in to make this all work in the harmony that we see out there in the stands?
Well, the most important part is the horses, so we all have to come together, make sure that they're taken care of. Everything runs smoothly in the barn. This year's a little bit hectic. We have 2 drivers now. So we have... Layne in the first heat, we have to get him back, unharnessed, everything good, make sure the horses are taken care of, and just keep going. Next, 4th heat is Darcy, and we just keep going.
Is Mom nervous when he's up in the box being a rookie or a newcomer at this?
I was last year. He started driving last year, and he did a few shows, and he did extremely well, but Layne's always been a very confident person, very confident in his ability. He knows his horses inside out. He knows what it takes to be a winner and be successful, and he's very, careful out there and sees what's going on all the time. So it's better this year. It was a lot easier this year watching him. He's 18 years old and just always so mature for his age. So yeah, it was a lot easier this year for sure.
What's a day at the racetrack with 2 drivers to look after for you? When does it start, and what all does it include?
Well, the horses, it starts at 7:30. The boys are in the barn. They're letting them out, getting them exercise, cleaning the barn, getting everything ready to put them back in, bedding it. We got 23 horses here, so it's quite a bit harder and different, and every horse has a different personality. So you got to make sure that they're feeling good and everything's going good for them. And then, breakfast, dinner, laundry, the whole shebang. And then by 4 o'clock, we're back here making sure that the horses have been rested and everything is good. They know their lineup, get everything organized so it runs smoothly. And it doesn't always run smoothly, but, you have to be able to pick up the pieces wherever they fall and keep going.
Rochelle, thank you for all you do to keep the family together. Let's meet that newest member of the driving team. Layne, the excitement, you're already underway. You've been hoping and dreaming for this day. What does it feel like now that it's here?
It's tough to put into words. It's just, you get out onto the track and you just feel on top of the world. There's really no better feeling. You get there and you get parked in the barrels and, everything is stopped for that 1 second there, and it feels like an hour, but when the horn goes, you're just on top of the world. So it's tough to put into words, but it's just a feeling that you never forget.
Is there an unseen pressure? The Flad name's been around for decades, and fans probably expect at least a certain level. Do you feel that when you're out there, when you're getting ready, when you're prepping, when you're choosing the horses each day?
Well, I'm pretty calm. I try to stay very calm, but there is pressure when you go out there, and a lot of people back home they're texting every day. Good luck, go get them. So it's really good to have their support. But when I go onto the track, I just worry about what I got to do and the best way that I can get around the track.
Safe driving, have a great season. The fantastic Flad family as they get ready for 2019.